Saying good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9 on the FM dial. Those of you in tune and viewing to Julien TV, whether it's Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20, good morning. Those of you on our social media platforms, also let me say good morning to you. Whether it's the Facebook page, YouTube channels, good morning and welcome to this edition of To The Point. Today being Wednesday, the 17th day of July 2024. Should be having two guests in studio with me already. Have one. Let me say good morning to Ms. Myrna Julien, of course, the communication manager of the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority. Ms. Julien, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and good morning to all our viewers and listeners. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. We should be having with us the Honourable Andy Williams with us this morning. I haven't seen him arrive as yet. If he do pops in, we will certainly do entertain him when he do pops in. So let's kick off the conversation with Ms. Julien. Ms. Julien, how's everything going? We know we just had wrapped up Hurricane Beryl, and I know your particular agency, is at kind of a trying time also in terms of the cleanup campaign and all of that in between the northern part of the island, the sister isles of Carriacou and so forth. Tell us a wee bit in terms of how's the process going, especially for the Sister Isle of Carriacou, in terms of what the role is the Solid Waste Management Authority playing in terms of the cleanup inside of Carriacou and Petit Martinique?
The authority, we recognize that we have a very critical role to play in the whole process of bringing Carriacou back to some semblance of order prior to the rebuilding process. Given the fact that if you look at what's happening in Carriacou, it's a sea of waste. Yeah. Everything that is there now has to be treated as waste in terms of the demolition, in terms of even the vegetation and all of that, so that we it isn't that we have to change our course of direction, but we'd have to change our priorities for now in terms of how we treat with Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Now, the state as we see it based on the first surveys that we have done of property loss, etc., tells us that we have to do a lot of internalizing as it relates to how we approach the whole collection process. How are we going to store? How are we going to treat with the waste that has emerged out of this disaster? Now, apart from the building rubble, the tree limbs, etc., we do still have to cope with the regular household waste and other waste types that are emerging out of this, because you have a lot of other property loss, including household stuff, including clothing, books, and quite a lot. So the authority, we have done some discussions among ourselves in terms of the staff, having reviewed what has happened in Carriacou, and we have met as a management team to see how best we can approach it step by step. It would have to take a lot of stakeholder engagements, partnerships in terms of the various ministries that we are serving. In other words, for example, if we're talking about vegetation, we would have to do a lot in terms of planning for the removal of the tree limbs and so on if agriculture is to flourish again, right? We would have to do a lot in terms of how do we dispose of the building rubble if the people have to rebuild again. Right, the streets have to be cleaned, the roadsides have to be cleared. If Glen, for example, needs to access the wires and start, pulling stuff up, both in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. So there are huge challenges. These are just a few that I mentioned, and so we have to take a systematic approach as to how we address each challenge going forward. However, we cannot take it one by one. All have to run together so that we are seeking the support of agencies and institutions that can help us in terms of getting there, in terms of, we've started the process in terms of the collaboration with the various ministries over the weekend and so on. But it would take a lot more than that. Yes, there was a very good operation over the weekend, but we still have quite a lot to do. Now,
seems like just the initial stages of it, if you could say that.
Yes.
Another question I would like to ask: the bulk of the responsibility now on of course, Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority. Where did we refer to those? Because I understand now the debris from Carriacou will be transported to Grenada. Some of it, you understand. I've also heard that that the compactor will be moved to Carriacou. How's the process of that going along? Also, I've heard that through the Greville conversation of that level. Will be transported to help in terms of the metal compacting and so forth. Tell us how that process is going along thus far in terms of the bulk of the work that it's set aside for the Grenada Management Authority, Solid Waste Management Authority.
Okay, so first of all, we must have the retrieval of the metal waste.
Yes.
Right. We have established collection points at 5 locations in Carriacou and 1 in Petit Martinique, which is a bit we're skeptical about because the playing field we were targeting in Petit Martinique is currently being used as a helipad.
Okay.
So we have to think, alternatively. However, the first of the 5 operating facilities in Carriacou went into operation prior to the weekend activity. And the other 4, we hope, would be activated during this week. The intention is to bring the demolition waste, the green waste, etc., to these sites, the galvanized and so on, to those sites for the purposes of processing. In terms of the metal baler as it is cannot travel to Carriacou.
So I was hearing a discussion of that level, so I just want to know if that really did happen, if it was being put together and actually sent there.
It would have been a wise idea if we had, but you would appreciate this metal baler we purchased after Hurricane Ivan. Yeah. It's a very old bit of equipment, so it has been suffering some frequent downtimes, and we are not too confident in sending it up at this stage. So what we are looking into at this stage is seeing how best we can get equipment. So we have come up with a list of the equipment that we need, including a metal baler, an additional metal baler, which would assist based on the specs that we have identified, would do a good job in terms of the fast breaking down of the metal waste and so on and cubing it for export. But in initial stages, we cannot store these huge quantities of metal on island. So government has committed a badge, and I think that the first steps would be to have them strapped. So we're looking to possibly strap the metal waste, the galvanized and so on, and ship down to Grenada, so that it can be baled for the purposes of recycling. We're looking into other heavy equipment, such as wood chippers. That would be industrial wood chippers for green waste. That would be trees and tree limbs, as well as those for the removal of metal things like nails and so on from the lumber and the shredding of lumber. So these are 2 different machines we're talking about here. So this will help to break down the quantities of waste that would be on island. The wood and so on can stay there, right? It can be when I say wood, the shredded green waste, right, can be used as mulch, back in the land and so on. So there would be quite a lot of need for support for the retrieval of the trees and tree limbs and so on from where they are strewn in properties and so on, and in the hillsides, etc. If we want to continue to support forestry, the return of forestry, the farmers going back into their farms, etc. Having had a view of what's taking place on the ground over the weekend. Quite a lot of the areas have turned brown, some of the areas that we knew to be agricultural, and they need to be returned to some level of normalcy, because we would have to be feeding Carriacou for quite some time. But I think that if we lay the groundwork in terms of helping to clean up the lands, etc., the removal of the tree limbs and having them shredded, then the residents, the farmers, can go back into their production, so as to help to feed themselves. All right. You would appreciate that the Dumfries landfill, its life expectancy is just as short as our Perseverance landfill, and we cannot overwhelm that facility with quite a lot of waste. So waste processing would be critical. Quite a lot of plastics, for example, going up on island right now, and so we're also thinking about diverting the plastic waste so that things like the water bottles and so on can be shredded. So we're thinking of placing a lot of emphasis, priority on getting the right equipment at this time for processing the waste, right? We recognize that there is need to address the regular household waste, because people talk of, when they visit, that the place looks, still not, looking too good. That nature. Right. So we have to beef up in terms of maybe improving or adding more days or so collection service, or maybe more equipment in terms of collection services for the residents to help them to clean up and so on. You would appreciate that we are into also the hurricane. Well, apart from the hurricane season, we are into the
rainy season.
Mosquito season.
I would say that.
Right.
Yes, I mean the still water and stuff.
Right, and we are also into with some cases of not diarrhea, but the other one.
Those waterborne diseases and so forth.
Right, and those that are carried by flies and so on.
So true.
Right, gastroenteritis. Right, and there were some cases we know of, so that we have to play a critical role in terms of helping the residents to get rid of their waste from their properties in order to avoid outbreaks, because we're committed to protection of human health, and at this stage there is a potential for the outbreak of these conditions, so that we are also focusing on ensuring that there is a swift cleanup in terms of assisting the residents to get rid of as much of the waste as that they have on the properties as possible.
Let's take a break and we come right back. Folks, stay with us. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio 105.5 and GBN TV. We will be right back after the break. Stay with us, folks. Don't you touch your dial.
Looking for...
Here's an assignment for you super sleuths, should you choose to accept. Every single-use plastic thrown into the environment has a fingerprint on it. Who does it belong to? That plastic bottle or food container was imported and distributed to warehouses, supermarkets, shops, food trucks, school canteens, vendor strays, and eventually made its way to us. So how did it get buried in the environment? Whose fingerprint is on this? Since several laws, including international agreements, prohibit polluting, hold on to that plastic bottle or food container until you get to a bin and dispose of it properly. Separate plastic waste for transport to a facility that reuses, repurposes, or recycles. It's the responsible thing to do.
Get ready for the ultimate family fun day at PAL Kids Fest.
On July 20th at 1 p.m. at the Moulin Rouge playing field for an unforgettable day packed with excitement. And guess what? Admission is absolutely free.
Immerse yourself in a world of thrilling activities, from mini vehicles to bouncing castles, face painting, and so much more. There's something for everyone to enjoy.
And the fun doesn't stop there. We're giving away incredible prizes, including Amazon Fire Sticks and a flat screen TV. Don't miss your chance to win big. Eats and drinks on sale.
Don't miss out on the biggest event of summer. Bring the whole family and make unforgettable memories at PAL Kids Fest. See you there.
This ad is sponsored by Terry's Yacht Services, Modern Photo Studio, Maitland's Trucking Services, GBN, and 92.5 FM.
Where are you come out? Where are you from? Spend $50 or more at any Hubbard's department or participating outlets for a chance to win. Free fuel, free drinks, free prizes, free property and vehicular insurance, free Hub TV and internet, free electricity, free coke, free water, free cooking gas, free paint supplies, free Dutch Lady milk, free passes to Sunshine promotion events for 2024, free groceries, all for one whole year. And every winner receives a free lunch package. But that's not all. Drive away in style in a brand new Isuzu D-Max. It sips, it doesn't guzzle. So fill out your entries and place them into the marked entry boxes. This promotion is brought to you in part by Dutch Lady, Danny, Promo, Supreme Bleach, Creative Chef, Grenada, Floor, Salt Petroleum, Grenadian General Insurance Company Limited, Coca-Cola, Sunshine Promotion, Caribberies, Coop Bag, Sesame Spain, and Food Fear. Promotion runs from April 2nd to December 24. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. To the point here, Classic Radio and GBN TV. Welcome back. Ms. Myrna Julien, representing the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority this morning. And, of course, we were expecting the Minister, Andy William, with us this morning. And somehow he's not here as yet. So apology for not having him on the show this morning. Ms. Julien, let's continue. Let's speak about the challenges that the Solid Waste Management Authority may have incurred, especially within the northern part of the island. May not have been as bad as the sister isle of Carriacou, but what were some of the challenges that, of course, you could probably speak of, especially in the northern part of the island, that the Solid Waste Management Authority had to have dealt with?
The only thing I can say was accessibility to some of the communities. You know, they were closed off for a little while.
Yeah.
But we got that figured out very soon in the game, so that our contractors were able to provide the collection services within 48 hours of the completion of the passage of Hurricane Beryl. So we do still have some issues in terms of dealing with the same type of waste. We have quite a lot of green waste to deal with, a lot of fallen trees and all of that. Our wood chipper was in Carriacou. It would be down in Grenada for a while and would be sent back up to Carriacou. I think it's coming down today because we had a contract assignment, and we would be able to do some shredding while it's here. Once the quantities have dwindled in terms of what we have to handle, I think that we should be able to free up the equipment and send it back to Carriacou. The issue with Grenada right now is the availability for space for waste. Yeah. The landfill is filled at this time. That's sort of a waste.
Is it the regular waste or more of the waste that was incurred because of the destructions that we've seen?
Waste that has emerged, hurricane-derived waste.
Okay.
Right? You would appreciate that there's quite a lot of green waste emerging. You have quite a lot of building rubble also here in Grenada. A lot of buildings were damaged in the north and so on. We do have the metal waste, galvanized and so on. So we would have some waste emerging, but I think that it's not anything that we cannot handle.
Cannot manage.
Right, at this time. As I said, the only thing is storage. You have the green waste. Some of it went to Pearl's airstrip. We hope that it would break down a bit and then we'll be able to shred, so we don't really put too much pressure on the one machine that we have until such time that we're able to procure the fleet of equipment that we have developed at the authority. So that basically is the challenge. We had quite a lot of food waste. We would have seen some increase in terms of the quantities, but it's not quite a lot. And so I think that we are able to cope. Once our contractors, got back on the ground and, were functioning, I think that we had that covered. In Carriacou, The issue, the bigger picture has to do with how do we cope with the waste that is on island and taking it down to Grenada. Carriacou cannot. There is no way in Carriacou that we can put it. Okay. And as I mentioned, our Dumfries landfill, the life expectancy is not as good as we expect it to be. Okay. Because this has come at a time when we are pressed for space at the facility. If we need to ensure that the waste coming there is managed appropriately, we would have to do some preparation of an appropriate cell, which we did not cater for at this time.
Yeah, because it's also going to lead to a question I was going to ask, because if you speak about the life expectancy of the Dumfries site, was there any plans for maybe redeveloping a new site of that nature as yet? Was that thought going to fruition at all?
That site could have about 10 years.
10 more years.
10 years. But we must put measures in place to deal with some of the waste that is already there. We have quite a lot of metal waste stacked there in terms of derelicts and metal and so on that needs to be removed, right, in order to do cell preparation.
Okay.
In order to ensure that there is an engineered system for landfilling at that facility. So as it is right now, there isn't a vast area for landfilling waste in a prepared cell, an engineered cell. Okay. So we'd have to move swiftly to remove the waste that is there, find markets for the metal that we already have. I'm talking about pre-burial, right? Pre-burial. We had quite a lot because we haven't been shipping any metals from out of Carriacou, right? We do still have the challenge of even tires, right? We haven't been doing anything with tires, etc. So it will take a holistic approach to all of the waste types that we have in Carriacou. There needs to be a study, waste characterization study as to what is in our waste stream right now and how we treat with each type of waste. So that would inform us as to our strategic approach to dealing with Carriacou after this, after burial. The approach that we are taking now in terms of management to do the review of what's there, our capacity to handle what's there, and what is needed to address what's there now and going forward, I think is the best approach. We need to ensure that all of our stakeholders are on board and understand where we are going in terms of the approach to addressing waste in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. When you go to Petit Martinique, you find a different situation, right? In Carriacou, you find that the people are there, they're working, I would say the householders, they are working from inside out, right? So you can see that some would have cleaned up some of the properties, they would have put it galvanized and so on out, and they're sorting through what's inside. It is not like in Grenada, right, when you had the Hurricane Ivan in 2004, and you were able to, if I'm living in St. Andrews and my house was damaged, I could have moved to somebody in St. George's, and thing. So
kind of alleviate that little bit of a stress a bit.
Right, but in Carriacou, the destruction is everywhere. So nobody, if you are damaged in the south, there's no way you can say you're going to somebody in the north of Carriacou. Yes. The situation is different. Without water, here in Grenada, during Ivan, we had water. We could have gone to a river to wash and so on. Everybody learned to use the inside of the laundry basket as a scrubbing board. But in Carriacou, there is no water, right? So what they're doing is salvaging what they can without that vital source of resource, right? So they have their approach, and we will have to work with them. What's critical is that we have to work with them. And having spoken to some of the residents, I get to understand where they are going in terms of their priorities, etc., and how we need to work with them. So we give them a chance. They have done. We were not there in the few hours after the disaster, but they did their fair share in terms of ensuring that even though they could not clear the roads completely, it was accessible. And then when the teams went up over the weekend, they were able to clear the sides of the road so that, the instruction was to do at least 10 feet on both sides of the road so that, you get rid of all the galvanized and so on. You stack them one way, the trees, the tree limbs, and so on in some of the areas. So it was a huge effort over the weekend to address that sort of a waste, that approach to dealing with the initial phases of waste management. But as I mentioned, we have a lot to do in terms of getting the island to a state where it can start rebuilding. And we at the Solid Waste Management Authority, we know that we have that critical role to play, and we are in the process of strategizing how we do. We brainstorming on a lot of things. How can we speed up certain processes? Where can we get help from? Looking, for example, in the region and outside of the region for where we can source what. So it is a lot of brainstorming, and we are hoping that everything will come together in a very short space of time so that we're able to come up with the best solutions for what's happening there in terms of waste management for Carriacou and Petit Martinique.
Okay. Let me also ask you this. In terms of conversation with residents of Carriacou, what are some of the concerns if the solid waste management did have the opportunity to have conversation with the residents of Carriacou? What are some of the concerns that they alleviated to?
I think that they need time. They need a lot of time. Parting with certain things is
critical. They may have this piece of that in their house for a pretty long time. It may have got destroyed, and it takes that time to get yourself consoled enough to want to get to part with it. Understandably so.
Yes, and given the fact that Carriacou has not had a system of that nature for a lot of years, you would appreciate that there would be a loss of a lot of history.
So true.
Right? And having spoken to some of the elderly, to me, they seem to be the ones that are more able to cope rather than the younger ones. Strange enough, right?
It's interesting.
You hear them talking about, well, we're not going to be rebuilding now, but after this season, and this is how they plan to do. This is what they plan to do with what they have right now. So, what I was able to draw out of them is that whereas we may be seeing everything as waste, there is value in what they have, right? So it's not everything that we may be seeing as needing to go to the landfill or for disposal that is waste. They're seeing things that can be reused, which is good, right? But what we're hoping is that the reuse of certain things, like for example the galvanized and the wood and so on, would be temporary. If just for temporary shelter and all of that. They're giving priority to shelter, right? A lot of them are without a covering over their houses and so on. So they would like to retrieve some of the galvanized and so on that might be workable still, the lumber and so on that might be workable. So we cannot just pick up and dispose of everything, right?
Give them the opportunity to kind of salvage what can be salvaged still.
Right, yes. And so there is value in what we see as waste, and we want to give them a chance to do that, but they need help. Quite a lot of help in terms of, first, the temporary shelters, sheltering themselves. They spend a lot of time during the day ensuring that the structures that they have for sleeping and so on are so outfitted so that they can get a comfortable night's sleep. I think that is one of the areas I think that they're focusing on. And so if they are focusing on that, we have to do a little bit of thinking for them in terms of how do we address the issues that they are not looking at that needs priority. And so how do we reach out to them to assist in terms of cleaning up of their properties and so on, so that I would say that the volunteer operation over the weekend, the institutions that are coming from outside of the region, as well as regionally as well as outside the region, would help a lot in terms of the psychological interventions needed, and so to coax them into the remedial work that is required to help them to build back, put them on the track of building back. So we realize we need to engage our contractors on the island as well as our contractors here to reach out to them with whatever support that can be given at this time. The volumes of waste are unusually high, and I don't think that our two contractors in Carriacou and Petit Martinique are in a position to handle it on their own. So we would have to regroup in terms of the authority and our contractors here on island and see how best we can reach out so that we can have a different approach in terms of the collection of regular household waste, right? These would be happening, we would see huge increases. I've seen it in terms of the quantities that the people are putting out on the roadside, and it is beyond what we are accustomed to in Grenada on a daily, let's say the twice weekly collection service. So that we need to help them to boost up in terms of the collection and sanitation services in Carriacou and Petit Martinique at this time. Even last evening there was a call from National Disaster Management Agency regarding maybe doubling up of efforts in Petit Martinique, right? Whereas we do...
But that can, not to cut you, but that consists of taking, of course, solid waste, of course, partners in Grenada to send to Carriacou and Petit Martinique.
This is what I'm thinking of, right? Yeah, based on the conversations I've had in the past 24 hours, it would require some more support in terms of getting equipment and so on up to Carriacou and to Petit Martinique to address that component. If we do not pay attention to this, we can have some serious implications in terms of public health issues.
Okay. We due for a break again, Ms. Julien. Let's take it when we come back. We'll chat some more. To our viewers and listeners, if you do have a question or two and you want to contribute to the program, feel free. When we do come back in the next segment, stay with us to the point here on Classic Radio. We will be right back.
Blast Gaming is where dreams come true.
Coming up, African emancipation celebrations build towards the big day. Crop Over rolls towards its own colorful conclusion. One of this region's top banks continues to demonstrate the power to make a difference. Welcome to another award-winning Home Away from Home, Caribbean athletes ready for the world. Souvenirs stitched from scratch. It's all next on this station.
Join us on GBN TV every Monday at 5:50 p.m. and on Classic Radio at 5:50 a.m. every Tuesday and Thursday for Revival in the Land, a program dedicated to bringing hope, faith, and renewal into our lives, hosted by Pastor Ricardo Aline of the Latter Rain Revival Center. Discover the power of faith and community. Revival in the Land, where hearts are healed and spirits are lifted.
Welcome back, listeners. Once again, welcome back to viewers, those of you via social media platforms. Welcome also, and hope all is well. And with me this morning, we have Ms. Myrna Julien. She's the communication manager at the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority. We do have a caller. I did, of course, requested that if you listeners and viewers out there who want to chime in with a question or two, feel free to do so in this segment as we continue our conversation. Let's say good morning to this caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Oh, yes, good on to you after a long while. How are you today?
Doing pretty well. Doing pretty well, sir. Good morning to you.
Good morning to your guest. And let me congratulate your guest for the ability in managing the solid waste division. I know it's a mountain, and they are doing a fantastic job. In a conversation with her CEO, I was recommended a shredder machine, and lo and behold, I was told that you have a shredder machine. And no, I'm hearing yes, you have a shredder machine. My recommendation is to have a very large shredder machine stationed on mainland, and you make this a permanent feature. You might need to get more trucks, and all the green waste in particular, you ground this into what you call a sawdust, or just above the sawdust material that could be purchased by farmers for mulch and people who want to do what you call compost. Home composting, so that will be available. So that's a permanent basis. But I would want to know how soon the authorities will remove the green waste from the edge of my property since burial. I want to try to reach the Ministry of Works, St. Andrews and St. David's, and it's impractical. The system is down. So I don't know if you could shed light on that, please, ma'am. But continue this great job you're doing.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much. A response to the caller, Ms. Julien?
Okay, yes. So, yes, we are investing in a larger machine. It's based on the dimensions I see. It is something that would work in the best interest of everyone, farmers and so on. And the intention is to produce the shred, the wood shreds, and it can be broken down into mulch, or you can add it with your compost. We do have a project which is due to be launched in September of this year in collaboration with the Center for Clean Air Policy, CCAP, for the promotion of home composting. So I think it is timely, and it would work in the best interest of treating with the green waste that would emerge both here in Grenada and in Carriacou, because we did have communities targeted in Carriacou for this project. In terms of what's happening with the waste, I'm not too sure where your location is. I think that Ministry of Works, I cannot speak for Ministry of Works, they have been the ones designating the collection points for the hurricane-derived debris, and so the Pearls Airstrip was one of the areas identified for the green waste. If I want to touch on Carriacou and Petit Martinique, we have apart from the Hillsborough Plainfield, we have Bel Air, Harveyville, Dover, and Mount Pleasant playing fields, and this is where the green waste would go, and this is where, of course, once we get that industrial shredder on island, our shredder will remain in Carriacou for the purposes of shredding at these locations. It is one that is mobile, it is industrial, and it can be taken to the various locations.
Okay, great. We do have another caller via WhatsApp. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Telesford.
Good morning to you, sir.
And good morning, Miss Julien. Miss Julien, I want to just come up with a little suggestion. I don't know how workable it may be. It can create employment also while you deal with waste. I don't know if you ever noticed charcoals being imported in those supermarkets. You know, you go in the States, you can get charcoal and different things, well bagged, labeled, and you can purchase it. You have a lot of fallen trees, and you decide to shred all those trees. I know the environmentalists may talk about, the burning and this, that, XYZ. I think here is a good opportunity. You don't have to go and put on coal pit all over the place. But if you can get the people who deal in the coal industry to utilize this wood, get charcoal, properly bag them, label them, sell them. We have a lot of people doing barbecue and they need charcoal. They have to go in the supermarket and purchase. So here there is a source of income, employment, and apart from that, maybe someone who more knowledgeable than me. Charcoal is medically used also in the medical industry. They use charcoal water. So there is great use where you can utilize some of those things. The tires, I want to say a lot of tires. You must think of getting a machine to shred the tires, bring it fine, talk to the people in the industry, in the road industry. You mix the crushed tires with the asphalt and you can reuse it for the paving of road also. So that's one way you can utilize those tires economically instead of just, I don't know, burning whatever you choose to do, but you can shred those tires. Lastly, my concern in terms of the waste from the potable toilets, how are they going to be disposed? Do you have a truck based in Carriacou will pump the waste at disposal? Because you don't want to have an outbreak of some disease where you're using this potable toilet, they use them in plastic bag and people may just dispose them all over the place. What I think, while we're trying to get rid of it, but maybe solid waste could talk to the people in gravel and concrete. In the meantime, get those pit latrine with the concrete platform being constructed. Let individuals dig their hole, install the pit latrine, the same galvanized that you're trying to ship. Build proper houses for this pit latrine, and they can be disposed in a more safe manner through holes instead of potable and plastic bag, and people might end up putting it all over the place. I don't know if you have a truck, a waste truck, to pump from those pit latrine, but these are three things that we need to consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. Anything you want to respond to the caller? If you
some very good, suggestions and so on. In terms of the toilet facilities, normally once you have those portable toilets, there is a system for pumping the waste out before they're before the trucks remove the toilets themselves.
Okay.
Right? But that's not under Solid Waste Authority. Sewage is under NAWASA.
NAWASA is the one responsible for that.
We do have plans for the management of the tires, etc. I know that there are some private interest in terms of processing of tires and reusing the rubber crumbs from the tires.
Okay, we do have another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning. You spoke about pearls as a dumping site for the green waste, but in the early initial stage, and even now, we had dumping in River and Twine, and we have dumping now in Sab and Swayze. We are cow graze. So I think you should look at chipping out those woods in those areas too, because there's a lot of dumping in that area called Sab and Swayze. Have a nice day.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. Any response? If it's feasible?
Strange enough, prior to the passage of the disaster, we were able to, we had an actual staff development exercise, and we did, as part of that, an island tour on the Friday prior to the passage of Beryl. And we were able to view quite a lot of the areas where there's a lot of illegal dumping, right? And we recently established a compliance unit within the authority, and they are doing quite a lot in terms of assisting with enforcement of legislation specific to waste management. And we identified quite a lot of illegal dump sites. River and Twine, a lot of wood, but among it you find a lot of barrels and so on. You have a lot of oil and so on dumped illegally. I must say that our compliance unit has been successful in terms of the identification of culprits who have been engaged in such illegal operations, and they are channeling their resources towards ensuring that those who have been identified as the culprits are brought to justice. We are seeking to have our enforcement officers, or compliance officers included as enforcement officers under some bits of legislation related to solid waste management. And so we are looking to see where we can take these illegal activities through the court system so that persons can be charged so they can avoid those. We do recognize that there are some private properties where people have been using their private properties for the disposal of trees and tree limbs and so on, and they would allow it to rot, which is good and commendable. However, if you require the services of the authority, we are always willing to come onto your site and offer the wood chipping services to assist you with the creation of mulch through our industrial wood chipper. All right. We are committed to ensuring that whatever is affecting the environment, we play our part, whether it's sand mining or whether it is illegal dumping. Our officers have been on the ground in terms of addressing those and taking it to the specific institution responsible.
Okay, great. We drew for a final break in the program this morning. Let's take it. When we come back, folks, we're going to, of course, get some closing contributions from Mrs. Julien and so forth. We're going right back. Stay with us.
Audrey Jackson.
I'm Greg Jackson.
On February 19th at 4 a.m., a gun was used to take my son from me. You know him as Pop Smoke. We call him Shar. Because of gun violence, I'll never see my son run up the front of our steps, taking them two at a time. He won't ever take my hands again and dance with me. He won't come into my room and muscle pose in the mirror. Gun violence destroys families. It must stop.
the 7 people, 7 to the West Indies. Grenada must no mass like this. No mass like this. Jumping up in the 7 people, 7 to the West Indies. Grenada must no mass.
Welcome back once again to listeners and viewers out there listening to The Point this morning. Today, Wednesday, the 17th of July. Welcome back, Ms. Julien. My final question before we, of course, just a couple more minutes left on the program this morning. Collection points, especially for those who have waste and that may want to, of course, have those waste have dropped off at particular collection points. Is there a list of collection points that folks may need to know of?
Okay, so in Carriacou, it's at Mount Pleasant, Plainfield, Dover, Plainfield, Harveyville, Plainfield, Bel Air, and Hillsborough, Plainfield. Now, what goes to those facilities is critical. So it would be galvanized, okay, and other metal waste. For example, your metal doors, window frames, and so on. And they must be separated. Wood, such as your lumber, right? Lumber that you do not want anymore, whether it is ply, whether it is rafters, and so on. Green waste, that would be trees and tree limbs. So if you're getting trucks, you have private trucks, or there are volunteers or they're assisting, you take that to the facility. And the other other segment would be for white goods and bulky items, your old refrigerators, stoves, wash machines, etc. So each of these facilities is divided into 4. Right, and so there are 4 waste categories that are to be brought there. Just to remind you again, it would be your green waste, that is trees and tree limbs, 1 category. Wooden waste, that is lumber, treated lumber, right, 1 category. That's the 2nd category. The 3rd category would be your metal waste, that would be your galvanized, your alu zinc, your roofing material, your metal doors, etc. And the 4th one would be your white goods and bulky items. Please note that things like television sets, bulbs, and so on, these are to be treated as special waste and would be collected as part of a special waste collection through our contractors as normal. So anything like chemicals and so on should not be disposed of through that system, should not be disposed even through our garbage collection contractors. But if you have chemicals, our occupational health and safety officer was on the ground last week trying to determine the presence of any chemicals or medical waste, etc., that needs to be disposed of, any hazardous waste. If you have a building that would have had asbestos or so, or any form of microfibers in its construction, these have to be treated as hazardous waste and properly disposed of at the landfill. So we are establishing systems for the collection of those items. They are to be collected under special conditions, transported under special conditions, and disposed of under specific conditions relative to the type of waste. So if there are schools that were damaged with the chemicals and so on, and they rain would have removed the labels and so on, you don't know what it is, you don't know what is contained, these would have to be entombed. The same thing for medical waste from the laboratories and from the pharmacies, etc. If you have those, these you would notify the Solid Waste Authority that you have those in your possession, and we make arrangements for the safe collection and entombment at the Dumfries landfill.
Okay, great. And anything in closing? Of course, you did mention all the collection points and of course the separation of the different, of course, waste that needed. Anything in closing before we take a wrap this morning?
There was some concerns raised, and we're hearing it by members of the public about the choice of the playing fields for stowing waste. As I say, it is temporary. We're not under normal circumstances, right? And there is little space in Carriacou available, and so the 5 sites have been identified in order to allow people to be able to access them and where they are located, so they can bring their stuff there. You know, if you have small transportation, you could take it to those facilities. Now, the use of the playing fields is not a new thing. We used playing fields in 2004 when we had Hurricane Ivan right in St. George's here. We would have at Woburn, we were at Laborie, we were even at the National Stadium. Yes. And we did the remedial work after. And so the decision by the Ministry of Works to allow us the use of the playing fields, I think it is a wise decision. We would ensure that waste arriving there would not consist of any chemicals or anything that would cause any, harm to anybody after. But we would take the remedial efforts in terms of removing the depth of topsoil that is necessary and replacing with clean topsoil after the cleanup operation is done. And I just want to plug in one for the weekend operation that happened. I'd just like to commend all of the volunteers who came out in the groups and the individuals and so on. I think that when I saw the groups coming in on Sunday, I was even, more surprised that we had more on Sunday than on Saturday. And they went on the ground, they did the work. It's really commendable. They achieved quite a lot, and even with the support of the heavy equipment, I think that quite a lot was done in terms of helping to address the roadside debris that was there and the transportation and taking it to the right facilities, and so paving the way, for example, for Glen to continue to run the lines, and for a number of other sectors to function in Carriacou, start off in Carriacou, and also on the ground in Peter Martin. I think quite a lot was done, and so just want to commend those who were part of the weekend operation in Carriacou. It meant quite a lot for the people in Carriacou, and I think that it augurs well for the whole process of rebuilding together. Thank you so very much.
Once again, Ms. Julien, thank you for being on the program this morning. So I do appreciate you coming and share the necessary information. All the best for the rest of the day.
You're most welcome, GT. Have a good day. Bye.
I certainly will. Hey, folks, that's where we take a wrap for this edition of To The Point. Join me again tomorrow, and we'll have another edition for you. Have a good one, folks. That's where I say goodbye.